My grandma needed emergency surgery. I called my parents. She's critical. Please come. No one came. Dad John texted. You're already there. You'll care for her better. Grandma didn't make it. A week later, at the funeral, the pastor read her final note. If John is here, do not. Imagine your own father looking you in the eye, or rather, texting you, and saying he'd only show up to your grandmother's deathbed if she actually died. Sounds impossible, right? But that text message was just the horrifying opening act to a family saga that exposed betrayal, manipulation, and the quiet, fierce power of a woman wronged. This isn't just my story, it's a blueprint, a warning. My name is Maria Schaefer. I'm 34 years old, a hospice nurse in Pittsburgh. And believe me, I've seen a lot of goodbyes. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for January 16th, 2025. At exactly 9:05 p.m., my beloved grandmother, Eleanor, slipped away after emergency surgery. I was utterly alone in that sterile, cold waiting room. My hands trembled as I called my parents. Not once, not twice, but 3 agonizing times. 3 times. My desperate pleas went unanswered. Then, 18 minutes that felt like an eternity after my first frantic call, my father, John, sent a text. Just one cold, brutal line. You're already there. Will come if she actually dies. She did. A week later, at her funeral, a place where, ironically, my parents did show up, a bombshell exploded. The pastor, his voice solemn, opened a sealed note Eleanor had left for him. The first line, it hit like a punch to the gut. If John is here, do not let him speak for me. My parents stood there, utterly clueless. They had no idea. They had no clue that Eleanor, my sharp, quiet grandmother, had been meticulously preparing for this exact moment for a very, very long time. And they definitely didn't know that I, Maria Schaefer, hospice nurse, document everything. Every timestamp, every missed call, every visitor log, every single soul-crushing lie. If you've ever been abandoned by family when someone you loved was dying, please subscribe right now and tell me in the comments what city you're watching from. Because what I'm about to share with you, it's a blueprint. It's how you fight back. Let me take you back to that Thursday. I was just finishing my shift at 3 Rivers Hospice, the bitter taste of untouched coffee still on my tongue, when my phone screamed. UPMC Presbyterian ICU. I've been a hospice nurse for 11 years. You learn to read the tone in someone's voice before they even finish their sentence. That day it was urgent. The charge nurse patched me through to Dr. Lorna Fitzpatrick, and she didn't waste a single precious second. Miss Schaefer, your grandmother, Eleanor, was rushed in 20 minutes ago. Perforated bowel, advancing sepsis. We need surgery within the hour. It's high risk, Maria. Her age, the infection, the strain on her heart, she may not survive. My hand flew to the napkin under my coffee cup. Perforated bowel. Sepsis. High risk. I knew what those words meant. I knew the grim prognosis. But writing them down, it helped. It helped me feel like I had some semblance of control in a world suddenly spinning. I'm coming, I said, my voice surprisingly steady, considering my heart was hammering against my ribs. 15 minutes. Is there other family we should contact? Dr. Fitzpatrick's reply was calm. I'll call them. I hung up. First, my father. 4 rings. Voicemail. My jaw tightened. Then my mother. 6 rings. Voicemail. My heart, already heavy, sank even further. How could neither of them pick up during a family emergency? It was unthinkable. I opened our family group chat, the one my mother insisted on for staying connected. An ironic sting now. I typed, Grandma in emergency surgery UPMC Presbyterian. Critical. Need you here now. Sent at 4:05 p.m. It delivered immediately. Then, seconds later, those chilling little words. Read by John. Read by Diane. I waited. And waited. Nothing. I grabbed my coat, my bag, knocking over my still full coffee. Still nothing. I got in my car, fumbling with the keys. UPMC Presbyterian is a mere 14 minutes from the hospice. I drove, my phone on the passenger seat, screen up, silently begging for it to light up. Anything. At 5:02 p.m. it buzzed. Finally. But it wasn't a call. It was a text. From my father. You're already there. Will come if she actually dies. I read it once. My mind stuttered. Then again. And again. The words burned. The car behind me honked. The light was green. I drove. I parked on level 3, spot C29. I even took a photo of the sign, my brain strangely fixated on every mundane detail, as if that would somehow hold my world together. I walked into the hospital, took the elevator to the ICU and checked in. The nurse, Bethany, handed me visitor badge 1293. Are other family members coming? She asked kindly. They said they were. I lied. I don't know why I lied. Maybe because admitting the raw, brutal truth that my own father would only show up if his mother was dead was just too humiliating, too painful. Bethany led me to the family waiting room. Pale blue walls, 8 chairs, a vending machine. 9 other people were already there, their faces etched with their own silent worries. I chose chair D7, a strategic spot facing the hallway to the OR. At 6:01 p.m., they wheeled Eleanor into surgery. A nurse told me it could be 2 to 4 hours. I just nodded, numb. I pulled out my phone and texted my parents again. She's in surgery. Read at 6:14 p.m. No reply. For the next 4 agonizing hours, I sent updates every 30 minutes, like a robot, like I was filing a police report. Still waiting. No news yet. Surgeon hasn't come out. Every message was read. Every single one. Not one response. Not a word of comfort. Not even an emoji. At 7:04 p.m., a different nurse asked about my family. They're on their way. I lied again, the words feeling like ash in my mouth. At 8:15 p.m., I bought coffee from the vending machine. $2.50. It was too hot. I burned my tongue. But I kept holding the cup. I just needed something in my hands. Something solid. An older woman next to me glanced over, her eyes kind. How long have you been waiting? Almost 2 hours. I heard a strangled laugh escape me. Is your family with you? I looked at her, wanting to scream the truth. They're coming, I said instead, my voice barely a whisper. She smiled. Good. No one should wait alone. I walked back to my chair before I started crying, before I broke down completely. At 9 p.m., the shift changed. A nurse named Gregory checked the visitor log, then looked at me, a question in his eyes. Still just you? I nodded, feeling hollow. Do you need us to call anyone? No, I said, a strange sense of finality in my voice. They know. At 9:04 p.m., the OR door swung open. Dr. Fitzpatrick walked out, still in her surgical cap, mask pulled down. My stomach dropped. I've seen that face 100 times in my work in hospice. I know what it looks like when someone is about to tell you that the person you love is gone. She walked over. Miss Schaefer, I'm so sorry. We did everything we could, but her heart couldn't sustain the procedure. She arrested at 9:05 p.m. We were unable to resuscitate. I heard myself ask, a strange, calm voice I didn't recognize. Was she in pain? She was under anesthesia the entire time. She didn't suffer. I nodded. I thanked her. Why did I thank her? It felt automatic. They let me see Eleanor in a small, quiet room off the ICU. She looked so much smaller than I remembered. Her hands were still warm, a heartbreaking detail. I stayed for 10 minutes, sitting next to her, holding her hand, and whispering a promise. I'll protect you. I don't care what they say. I'll make sure people know who you really were. Then I walked out, sat on a cold bench near the elevators, and called my father. He picked up on the 3rd ring. Yeah, his voice was flat. Dad, Grandma didn't make it. She died in surgery. 3 seconds of deafening silence stretched. Then, okay, we'll handle arrangements tomorrow. I waited. For more. For anything. But he said nothing. That's it. I heard my voice crack brittle. That's all you're going to say? What do you want me to say, Maria? She's gone. He sounded annoyed. I want you to say you're sorry you didn't come. I want you to ask if I'm okay. You're fine, he said dismissively. You work with dying people. This is what you do. Then he hung up. Call duration, 47 seconds. I took a screenshot. I called my mother next. She picked up on the 2nd ring. I could hear the TV in the background, a sitcom laugh track mocking my grief. Mom, Grandma's dead. A pause. Oh, well, I suppose that's for the best. She was suffering. Suffering? She wasn't suffering. She had a ruptured bowel. It was sudden. Still at her age. Her voice trailed off, a vague dismissal. Are you coming to the hospital? What for? She's already gone, isn't she? I didn't answer. I couldn't. Your father will take care of the details, she said, and then she too hung up. I sat on that cold bench for 20 minutes. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat. Then I drove home, walked into my quiet kitchen, and started making a list. The next morning, my father called at 9 a.m. casual. Like nothing had happened. He'd chosen Kowalski Funeral Home and told me I should handle the coordination, since I was off work anyway. I'm not off work, Dad. I took emergency leave. Well, you're a nurse. You know how these things work. I'm a hospice nurse, not a funeral director. He sighed, a dramatic, put-upon sound, like I was being utterly difficult. Maria, just do it. We trust you. The arrogance was breathtaking. I met with Raymond Kowalski that afternoon. He was kind, truly, in his early 60s, with silver hair and a soft, empathetic voice. As I signed paperwork, my hand still shaking, he asked gently, "Will your parents be involved in planning?" I didn't know how to answer. The shame still clung to me. My father thinks I should do it, because I work with dying people. Raymond set his pen down, his gaze steady and knowing. That's not the same as burying your own, he said. His words were a quiet comfort. Near the end of our meeting, Raymond mentioned something that sent a shiver down my spine. Eleanor had prearranged some things 2 weeks prior. She'd chosen the casket, picked Tim's written instructions, and she'd left 2 sealed envelopes, one with Pastor Callahan at St. Agnes, one with her lawyer, Gerald Pute. Did she say what was in them? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He shook his head, just that they were only to be opened if certain people were present. Something cold, a mix of apprehension and dawning comprehension, settled in my chest. Eleanor was always smarter than people gave her credit for. For the next few days, sleep utterly refused to come. I kept replaying my father's text. "Will come if she actually dies?" The words echoed in my mind, a cruel mantra. I kept thinking about how they never called the hospital. Not once. On January 18th, at 2 a.m., I opened my phone, the screen a stark blue in the darkness, and started counting. 11 unanswered calls. 8 text messages during surgery. 1 single, chilling reply. I took screenshots of everything. Every single piece of evidence. I didn't know why. I just couldn't stop. It felt like an instinct. On January 19th, I requested the official visitor log from UPMC. It printed that afternoon, a cold, hard document. January 16th, 2025. Patient, Eleanor Schaefer. Visitor, Maria Schaefer, Badge A 1293. 4:45 p.m. to 10:22 p.m. No other names. Just mine. That same day, I went to Eleanor's house to pick out her funeral clothes, a task that felt surreal. On her kitchen table, placed neatly, was a manila envelope. My name, in her familiar, elegant handwriting, graced the front. Maria, open if I don't come home. Dated January 10th, 2025. 6 days, 6 days. Before her surgery, I sat at her worn yellow formica table, the quiet hum of the house surrounding me, and opened it. Inside, a handwritten letter, photocopied hospital documents from 2017, and a USB drive labeled voicemails. My hands shook. The letter began, "Maria, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I need you to know some things while the truth still matters." She told me, her words a bomb and a sting simultaneously, that she didn't expect my father to come, that she'd made peace with it, that she told Dr. Fitzpatrick to only call me if things became critical. She'd signed paperwork making it legal. "You've always been the one who stayed," she wrote, and those words brought tears to my eyes. "When I was lonely, you came. When I was afraid after the stroke, you sat with me. You didn't check your watch. You just stayed." Then she dropped the bomb. "Your father visited me once during my stroke recovery in 2017. Once in 6 weeks, 15 minutes, and 12 of those were spent asking if I'd thought about selling the house. I kept the visitor log. It's in this envelope. I've kept everything, Maria, because I knew a day would come when I'd need proof." My breath hitched. I looked at the photocopies. Allegheny General Hospital, October to November 2017. Eleanor admitted October 1st after a stroke. 6 days acute care, 6 weeks rehab. Visitor logs. Maria Schaefer, 9 visits. John Schaefer, 1 visit. October 3rd, 11:04 to 11:19 a.m. Diane Schaefer, 0 visits. 15 minutes. My father visited his mother for 15 minutes during a 6-week stroke recovery. And I hadn't known, because he told me she was fine, that they were handling it, that I shouldn't worry. I felt sick. A cold, creeping sickness deep in my gut. I plugged in the USB drive. 7 audio files, all meticulously dated. October 5th, 3:42 p.m. My father's voice, casual, almost breezy. Hey, Mom. It's me. I know you're in rehab, but I've been thinking. Have you considered selling the house? It's a lot to maintain, especially now. Just think about it. 38 seconds. No, how are you? Just a question about her house. 2 days after her stroke. November 1st, 2017, 6:15 p.m. Mom, I talked to a realtor. He thinks the house could go for $425, maybe more. Just something to keep in mind. Love you. Love you like punctuation. An afterthought. March 14th, 2019, 10:22 a.m. Hey, Mom. Hate to ask, but we've got unexpected home repairs. Could you lend me about $3,200? I'll pay you back in a couple months. Thanks, Mom. I pulled out the next documents. Bank statements, highlighted in vivid yellow. March 14th, 2019, withdrawal $3,200. Eleanor's handwriting in the margin. Asked March 10th, promised repayment soon. Never happened. I kept listening, rage building in my chest. For more voicemails. All the same. Asking for money. Advice on selling. Bills he couldn't cover. In 2022, he asked for $1,800 for car repairs. Bank statement showed she gave it. Another note. Eleanor's neat script a testament to her meticulousness. Second time. Still no repayment from 2019. $5,000 total. Never paid back. I sat there, staring at my laptop screen, the cold glow illuminating my tears. Then I did something I'd never done before. I screamed, a raw, guttural sound that tore from my throat. I slammed my fist on the table, stood up, and shouted at the empty room, at the ghosts of deceit. You called her just to ask for money while she was in rehab, while she was learning to walk again. Then I sank back down, trembling, opened a spreadsheet, and started building a case. My evidence log was growing. John Schaefer, 7 voicemails requesting money. 15-minute hospital visit during 6 weeks stroke recovery, 2017. $5,000 borrowed, never repaid. 11 unanswered calls during Grandma's emergency, January 16, 2025. 8 ignored text updates during surgery. 1 chilling reply, will come if she actually dies. 0 hospital visits, January 16, 2025. I saved the file, my fingers flying. Then I made a decision. A clear, cold decision. I wasn't going to let my grandmother die for nothing. I was going to use every single skill I had as a hospice nurse. Documentation. Timelines. Witness statements. I was going to make sure everyone knew exactly who my father was. The funeral was January 23rd at St. Agnes Catholic Church. I arrived early, deliberately early, needing to compose myself. By the time the service started, 64 people, a testament to Eleanor's quiet influence, had signed the guest book. My parents arrived at 10:28 a.m., fashionably late. My mother in navy and pearls, a picture of sorrow. My father in a pristine black suit, hand on her elbow, face composed into a mask of appropriate grief. They sat in the front pew, center stage. I sat 3 rows back, watching them. Pastor Callahan delivered the eulogy. 8 minutes. He talked about Eleanor's deep faith, her vibrant garden, her unwavering devotion to family. My father, with a perfectly timed sniffle, wiped his eyes with a handkerchief. When the eulogy ended, Pastor Callahan paused, a dramatic beat. There is one more thing, he announced. He reached into the podium and pulled out an envelope, sealed with a distinctive red wax. Eleanor's unmistakable handwriting graced the front. Eleanor left this with me 6 days before her surgery. She asked that I open it only if certain people were present. His gaze swept over the congregation, then landed, pointedly, on my father. The envelope specifically states, "If John is here, do not read this aloud." Give it to Maria, privately. The room went silent. A collective, stunned gasp rippled through the pews. My father's face went from composed to ashen white. My mother whispered, a frantic, barely audible sound. "What is that?" Pastor Callahan, unhurried, walked down the aisle and handed the envelope directly to me. "She wanted you to have this alone." My father, suddenly finding his voice, stood. "That's my mother's writing. I have a right." "Your mother's wishes were clear, John," Pastor Callahan said, his voice quiet but absolute, a force of nature. Then he walked back and calmly continued the service, leaving my father sputtering, defeated. I stood, the envelope clutched in my hand, and walked, as steadily as I could, to the restroom. I locked myself in a stall, my heart thumping, and tore open the red wax seal. A 2-page letter, on cream stationery, written in blue ink. "Maria, if you're reading this, I'm gone." And John showed his face at my funeral. I knew he wouldn't come to the hospital. He never does, not when it costs him something. In 2017, when I had the stroke, he visited once, 15 minutes, 12 of them asking about selling the house. I kept the log. I kept the bank statements from when he borrowed $3,200 in 2019 and $1,800 in 2022. I kept the call log showing he phones once a month, always Sunday, always 6 minutes. I told Dr. Fitzpatrick to only call you if I became critical. I signed the paperwork. It's legal. I will not die waiting for him to care. You stayed, Maria. You always have. You are the daughter I needed. He is the son I raised, but not the son I deserved. The house is yours. The will is filed. Pastor Callahan has a copy. Gerald Pute has another. John will be angry. He'll say I was senile, or you manipulated me. Let him. You have the logs, the statements, the voicemails. The truth is simple. He wanted what I owned, not who I was. Don't let him take that from you. Grandma Eleanor. I folded the letter, walked out, and got in my car. I sat there with the envelope in my lap, the engine off, and for the first time since January 16th I cried. Not from sadness. No. From rage. A simmering, righteous fury. And from something else. Clarity. Absolute, piercing clarity. But there was one more thing Eleanor had left. Something I hadn't found yet, and it was about to change everything. If you're the kind of person who's been taking care of aging parents or grandparents, hit that like button right now, because what comes next is going to make you check every single piece of paperwork your family's ever signed. That evening, there was a gathering at Eleanor's house. It was tradition after a funeral. 22 people showed up, a mix of old friends and distant relatives. My parents arrived late, of course. I stood in the living room at 3:30 p.m., the weight of Eleanor's letter in my hand, and announced, my voice trembling slightly but clear, "I have something Grandma wanted you all to know." My father, ever the performer, immediately stood. "Maria, this isn't the time." "Sit down, John." Pastor Callahan, who had been standing near the fireplace, spoke. His voice was quiet, but it held an absolute, undeniable authority. Eleanor asked for witnesses. "Stay." My father, visibly deflating, slowly sat back down. Then I read the letter aloud, every single word. I didn't editorialize. I didn't add my own commentary. I just read. In 2017, he visited once. 15 minutes. 12 of them asking about selling the house. I kept the bank statements from when he borrowed $3,200 in 2019 and $1,800 in 2022. He is the son I raised, but not the son I deserved. When I finished, I folded the letter slowly, deliberately, and looked directly at my father. His face was a beet red. My mother stared at the floor, a statue of shame. My Aunt Carolyn, a quiet woman, stood and left without a word, her departure a loud statement. She was my mother, my father said, his voice shaking, trying to grasp at some shred of dignity. Then where were you when she was dying? I asked, my voice cutting through the stunned silence. No answer. You texted me. We'll come if she actually dies. Do you remember? His eyes darted away. We were busy. You were already there. My blood boiled. Because she asked the hospital not to call you. Because you trained her to expect nothing. I pulled out my phone, a tangible piece of my evidence. She left the house to me. The will is filed. If you want to contest it, go ahead. I have 6 years of receipts to show a judge. My father, his carefully constructed facade shattered, grabbed his coat and stormed out. My mother followed, her head down, without looking at me. I stood in Eleanor's living room, surrounded by people I barely knew, and felt something I hadn't felt in a week. Relief. A profound, bone-deep relief. But it didn't last long. 3 days later, my phone rang. It was Gerald Pute, Eleanor's lawyer. "Maria," he said, his voice serious, "there's something else you need to see. Eleanor left a second envelope with me. She said to give it to you 2 weeks after the funeral." I met him at his office the next morning. He handed me a smaller envelope, this one sealed with clear tape, labeled starkly, "Maria. Opened January 30th, 2025. Inside was a handwritten note and, ominously, a flash drive. The note said, "Maria, if you're reading this, the funeral is over and you've read my first letter. Good. Now, I need you to see what I recorded. This is the part John can never explain away. Watch it alone, then decide what to do with it. I trust you. Grandma." I went home, my hands shaking with anticipation and dread. I plugged the flash drive into my laptop and clicked the only file. Eleanor_confession_ January 8_2025.mp4. The video opened. Eleanor sitting in her familiar living room, facing a camera on a tripod. She was wearing her reading glasses and a cozy cardigan. The date stamp in the corner read January 8th, 2025, 8 days before her surgery. She took a breath, a deep, settling breath, and began to speak. "My name is Eleanor Grace Schaefer. I'm 78 years old. Today is January 8th, 2025. And I'm recording this because I know I don't have much time left. Not because I'm sick, though my doctor says my heart isn't what it used to be, but because I've decided to stop pretending. I have a son, John. He's 52. And for 52 years, I've told myself that he's a good man who's just busy, that he cares, but doesn't know how to show it, that I'm asking too much. But I'm done lying. In 2017, I had a stroke. I spent 6 weeks in rehab learning to walk again. John visited me once. 15 minutes. And he spent most of that time asking if I'd thought about selling my house. He didn't ask how I was feeling. He didn't ask if I was scared. He asked about real estate. Since then, he's called me once a month. Always on Sunday. Always for 6 minutes. I timed it, because I wanted to know if I was imagining it. I wasn't. He's borrowed $5,000 from me over the last 6 years. He promised to pay it back. He never did. I didn't ask for it back, because I didn't want to fight. Because I wanted to believe he still loved me. But he doesn't. And I know that now. So, I'm leaving my house to my granddaughter, Maria. Not because John doesn't deserve it, though he doesn't. But because Maria is the only one who stayed. When I was lonely, she came over. When I was afraid, she listened. She didn't check her watch. She didn't ask for anything. She just stayed. John, if you're watching this, I want you to know something. You're not a bad person. But you're not the son I needed, and I'm not going to spend what's left of my life pretending you are. Maria, I love you. Thank you for being my daughter when I needed one most." The video ended. Eleanor reached forward, a faint smile on her lips, and turned off the camera. I sat there, staring at the screen, tears streaming down my face, my chest aching. Then I replayed it, and this time I noticed something. Something small, almost imperceptible. In the background. On the bookshelf behind Eleanor, a small black device, a camera pointed at the couch. I paused the video, zoomed in. My stomach dropped like a stone. Eleanor had been recording everything. I grabbed my keys, a surge of adrenaline coursing through me, and drove, almost blindly, to her house. I went straight to the living room, moved the books on the shelf, my hands frantic, and found it. A tiny wireless camera, still active, still recording to a cloud account. My mind raced. I logged into the account using the password Eleanor had written on a sticky note inside the envelope. Maria stays 22025. The cloud storage had over 200 hours of footage dating back to March 2024. I started scrolling through the files. Most were mundane. Eleanor reading, watching TV, watering plants. Then I found one. Dated December 19th, 2024. The timestamp showed 11:03 a.m. I clicked play. The video showed Eleanor's living room. She wasn't home, but someone else was. My father. And my mother. They were standing in the middle of the room, talking. I turned up the volume, my breath held tight in my chest. John, she's not going to last much longer. Dr. Patel said her heart's getting worse. Diane, so what do we do? John, we wait. Once she's gone, the house is ours. I already talked to a realtor. We can list it for $450, maybe $500 if we stage it right. Diane, but what about Maria? Doesn't she visit her all the time? John, Maria's a bleeding heart. She'll be sad for a while, but she'll get over it. Besides, we're the next of kin. The house goes to us. Diane, are you sure? What if your mom left a will? John, laughing. A chilling sound. She's 78 and forgetful. She hasn't updated anything since Dad died. Trust me, we're fine. Diane, I don't know, John. This feels wrong. John, it's not wrong. It's practical. She's old. She's going to die. And when she does, we're going to sell this house and finally take that trip to Europe we've been talking about. Diane, what if she needs surgery or something? What if Maria calls us? John, then we let Maria handle it. She's a nurse. That's literally her job. Diane, hesitating, her voice small, I don't want people to think we're bad people. John, no one's going to think anything, Diane. We'll show up to the funeral. We'll cry. We'll say nice things. That's all anyone remembers. The video continued for another 3 minutes. They talked about contractors, staging, closing costs. Then they left, oblivious. I sat there, frozen in my chair, the video still paused, showing their scheming faces. My mother knew. She knew my father was waiting for Eleanor to die. She knew they were planning to sell the house before the body was even cold, and she went along with it. The realization was a physical blow. I grabbed my phone, my fingers numb, and called Gerald Pute. I need to see you. Now. If you're still watching, comment the words showing up. If you agree that showing up for someone isn't optional, it's a moral obligation. Because what happens next is going to prove that my grandmother, Eleanor, knew exactly what she was doing. Gerald Pute's office was on the 3rd floor of a classic old building in downtown Pittsburgh. When I walked in, I handed him the flash drive without saying a single word. He watched the footage, all of it. Eleanor's heartbreaking confession. The hidden camera recording of my parents in December, their casual cruelty laid bare. When it ended, he leaned back in his chair, a slow, appreciative nod. Your grandmother, he said, was sharper than most lawyers I know. Can we use this? I asked, my voice tight with a desperate hope. Absolutely. He opened a file on his desk, its contents surprisingly thick. Eleanor updated her will on January 11th, 2025. She left the house and all assets to you. She also included a clause specifically disinheriting John, citing abandonment and financial exploitation. She had me witness it along with Pastor Callahan and her doctor, Dr. Patel. So it's airtight. A wave of relief washed over me. It should be, I said. But knowing your father, he's going to fight. I was right. Oh, how right I was. On February 3rd, 2025, my father filed a contest against Eleanor's will. He claimed she'd been unduly influenced, that she wasn't of sound mind, that I had manipulated her. The gall was infuriating. But here's what my father didn't know. On February 10th, I received a call from a notary named Kathleen Briggs. She sounded a little nervous. She said Eleanor had contacted her in early January to notarize some documents. One of those documents was a signed statement dated January 9th, 2025, affirming that Eleanor was of sound mind and that all changes to her were made freely and without coercion. But that wasn't the bombshell. The real bombshell was what Kathleen told me next. Your father came to see me on January 28th, she said, her voice hushed. He brought a document he claimed was your grandmother's will. He wanted me to notarize it retroactively, said it had been signed in 2023 but never properly witnessed. What did the document say? I asked, my blood going cold. That the house would be split between him and you 50/50ths. My jaw clenched. Did you notarize it? No, she said firmly, because the signature didn't match the one I'd notarized 2 weeks earlier. I told him I couldn't help him. He got angry and left. I thanked her, hung up, and immediately called Gerald, my heart pounding. My father tried to forge a will. Gerald was silent for a moment, processing. Do you have proof? The notary will testify. Then we have him, he said, a quiet triumph in his voice. The court date was April 3rd, 2025. I didn't have to testify, but I sat in the courtroom anyway, a silent, unblinking witness. I watched. Gerald, a calm, methodical force, presented Eleanor's updated will, notarized and witnessed by 3 unimpeachable people. Gerald himself, Pastor Callahan, Dr. Patel. Eleanor's signed statement from January 9th, affirming her mental competency. The visitor logs from 2017, stark proof of John's paltry 15-minute visit. Bank statements showing $5,000 in unreturned loans. Voicemail transcripts. An affidavit from Dr. Fitzpatrick stating Eleanor had been fully competent and clear when discussing her advance directive. Eleanor's video confession. The hidden camera footage from December 19th showing my parents planning to sell the house. And then, Kathleen Briggs's powerful testimony about my father's brazen attempt to forge a will. My father's lawyer had absolutely nothing. He tried to argue that Eleanor had been confused, that I had taken advantage of her fear, but the evidence was overwhelming, irrefutable. On April 10th, the judge dismissed the case. He said, and I quote, Mrs. Schaefer spent 2 years building an ironclad record of her wishes. There is no evidence of incapacity or undue influence. This case is without merit. My father, his face contorted in a silent scream of rage, stormed out of the courtroom, a defeated, broken man. I never heard from him again. But my mother called me 2 months later. It was June 15th, 2025. I almost didn't pick up, my finger hovering over the ignore button. I'm leaving your father, she said, her voice thin and shaking, almost unrecognizable. I didn't say anything, just listened. I didn't know, she whispered, a desperate plea for understanding. About the money, about the hospital. He told me you were exaggerating, that Eleanor was confused. I wanted to believe him. You were on that camera footage, Mom, I said, my voice flat, holding back the storm inside me. You knew he was waiting for her to die, so he could sell the house. Long silence stretched between us, heavy with unspoken truths. I know, she whispered, her voice breaking. I knew, and I'm ashamed. I was scared, scared of losing the house, scared of what people would think if we didn't get anything. So, I went along with it, and I'm so sorry. Are you calling because you're sorry? I asked. Or because you lost? Another silence. Both, she said finally. I can't live with him anymore. Not after seeing what he did. Not after seeing what I let him do. Good, I said. Can I visit sometime? She asked, a fragile hope in her voice. I know I don't deserve it. I'll think about it, I said, and then, gently I hung up. I didn't hate her. I just didn't have room for her yet. The wounds were too fresh. By the end of summer, word had spread like wildfire through the church community. My father and mother stopped attending St. Agnes. I heard they'd moved to a different parish across town where no one knew the story, where they could pretend to be blameless. The house was mine. Legally. Morally. Completely. But I wasn't done yet, because Eleanor had left me one more gift. And this one wasn't about justice. It was about healing. It was about turning pain into purpose. February 14th, 2026. Valentine's Day. I officially moved into Eleanor's house. The temperature was 52 degrees, unseasonably warm for Pittsburgh in February, a gentle hint of spring. The sun was breaking through the clouds, a hopeful sign. The first thing I did was plant yellow roses in the front yard. Eleanor's favorite. I found her old gardening gloves in the shed, still smelling faintly of soil and lavender hand cream, and I used them to dig the holes. It felt like a sacred act. Inside, I set up what I called the memory wall in the living room. Photos of Eleanor in her vibrant garden, her beaming at my college graduation, her head thrown back, laughing at some joke I couldn't quite remember. And in the center, in a simple silver frame, I hung her advance directive. The one that said, in the event of critical illness, surgery, or end-of-life care, only Maria Schaefer is authorized to be contacted and present. John Schaefer is explicitly excluded from notification. Beneath it, I placed a small, engraved plaque I'd had made. Dignity at the end is earned, not inherited. Eleanor Schaefer, 1943 to 2025. People asked why I'd framed something so painful. I told them the truth, unflinchingly, because the truth shouldn't be hidden. Eleanor had spent too long protecting people from it. I wasn't going to make the same mistake. But the memory wall wasn't the only thing I did. In July 2025, with the money from Eleanor's estate, I established the Eleanor Schaefer Dignity Fund, a nonprofit dedicated to helping elderly people who had been abandoned or exploited by their families. The fund provides 3 crucial things. 1. Legal assistance for seniors updating wills, advance directives, and healthcare proxies, making them ironclad. 2. Documentation services, helping elderly people create video testimonies, organize financial records, and build evidence if they suspect exploitation. And 3. Emergency support, paying for hospice care, funeral expenses, or housing for seniors whose families have financially abandoned them. In the first 6 months, we helped 43 people. One of them was a woman named Dorothy, 81, whose son had drained her savings account and then, predictably, stopped visiting. We helped her get a lawyer, recover the money, and update her will, carefully excluding her son. She recorded a video testimony, just like Eleanor. She said, her voice strong despite her age, "I'm not going to let him erase me." Another was a man named Harold, 76, whose daughter only called when she needed money. We helped him set up an advance directive that explicitly excluded her from medical decisions. When he passed away 6 months later, his wishes were honored. His grandson, who'd been visiting him every week, inherited everything. Every single time I help someone, I think about Eleanor, sitting in her living room, recording that video, knowing she wouldn't be around to see it used, but knowing, with absolute certainty, that it would matter. I still work at 3 Rivers Hospice, but now, when I see the warning signs, the absent child, the phone call that never comes, the sudden, suspicious interest in wills, I don't just document it for the patient's file. I tell them about Eleanor. I tell them they have options. I tell them they don't have to die hoping someone will care. In late August 2025, I got a call from a woman whose mother was in hospice. Her brother hadn't visited in 3 weeks, but he had called twice asking about the house. "What do I do?" she asked, desperation heavy in her voice. I thought about Eleanor. I thought about the visitor logs, the voicemails, the video confession. "Document everything," I said, my voice firm but compassionate. "Not to punish him, but to protect your mother's choices. Ask her what she wants. Then honor it, even if it means he's not there at the end." Especially then. The call lasted 11 minutes. When it ended, I looked at the framed visitor log on my desk. The one from January 16, 2025, showing only my name. I keep it there, not as a wound, as a compass. On February 28, 2026, I'm sitting at Eleanor's yellow Formica table, drinking coffee from her favorite mug, the one with the chipped handle and the faded floral pattern. Outside, the yellow roses are blooming, a splash of cheerful defiance against the late winter chill. I think about that night in the ICU waiting room, the crushing loneliness, the way I sat alone, lying to nurses, covering for people who didn't deserve it. The way I held that empty coffee cup just to have something in my hands, a tiny anchor. I think about my father's text, "Will come if she actually dies." I think about how he did come to the funeral, where people could see him, where he could perform grief for an audience. But not when it truly mattered. Not when she was alive, vulnerable, and needed him most. And I think about Eleanor, sitting in this very kitchen 2 weeks before her surgery, writing letters, recording videos, sealing envelopes with red wax, meticulously, purposefully. She knew her son wouldn't show up. She knew I'd need proof. She knew the world would tell me to forgive, to let it go, to be the bigger person. So she made sure I didn't have to be. She gave me the tools to fight back, to stand up for her and for myself. Last week, I installed a small speaker in the living room, connected to Eleanor's video confession. I set it to play her final words on a loop, quietly in the background, a gentle hum, whenever someone visits. "Maria, I love you. Thank you for being my daughter when I needed one most." It's not morbid. It's a reminder. A powerful reminder that showing up isn't a favor. It's the whole point. A reminder that dignity at the end isn't inherited. It's earned, fiercely earned. And a reminder that if someone is waiting for you to die so they can take what you own, you have a right to fight back. Eleanor did. And she won. The visitor log is still on my desk at work. Every day I look at it. January 16th, 2025. Visitor, Maria Schaefer, badge A 1293. 4:45 p.m. to 10:22 p.m. Just one name, but it was the right name. Because at the end of a life, the only thing that truly matters is who stayed. And I stayed. If this story resonated with you, I need you to do something. Share this video with someone who's taking care of an aging parent or grandparent. Share it with someone who's been abandoned by family, who feels utterly alone. Share it with someone who needs to hear that they're not alone, that there's a path forward. And if you're in a position where you think your family might be waiting for you to die so they can take what you have, please do what my incredible grandmother did. Document everything. Record a video. Update your will. Build your case. Because the people who truly love you will show up, no questions asked. And the people who don't, well, they'll show up too. But only when there's something in it for them. Don't let them erase you. Showing up isn't optional. It's a moral obligation. And if your family can't do that for you, cut them out before they cut you.